and welcome to or welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the Picture This book tag, which was created both by Shelley from Shelley Swearingen as well as Jack from Spread Book Joy. I was tagged by Shelley Swearingen, and this is kind of the companion book tag to the Read This Readathon for 2022. However, you still can do this tag even if you're not reading the picture books for Picture This, because the prompts don't exactly have anything to do with the readathon itself. It's just like a fun companion book tag to go to. And I was tagged in this like 2 weeks ago, and I'm only getting to it now, so I'm a little bit behind, but at least I did it in the same month, right? I say that's progress. Number 1, Love You Forever, written by Robert Munsch and illustrated by Shelia McGraw. Name a book you imagine you'll love forever. The first one that comes to mind is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I read this the first time when I was probably about 13, and what is this, like 14 years later, I have read this multiple times and I love it. So even if I may move on and enjoy other books and deeper books more, I think there will never be a time where I don't love this book. Number 2, Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, Very Bad Day, written by Judith Fonsk and illustrated by Ray Cruz. Which books or comfort things do you turn to when you are having a bad day? First of all, mysteries. Mysteries in general just make everything better for me. I also really enjoy like light historical reads, not like dark, dense historical nonfiction. I'm talking about like historical romance, historical suspense, historical mysteries. In general, just historical and mystery stuff. I really enjoy those. Other things that I enjoy when I'm having a depressing day, I like blankets. They're amazing. Curl up with a blanket when you're having a bad day and it will just make everything better. Tea makes things better too, especially green tea. I've been obsessed with green tea lately. It's so good, so amazing, and it just makes me feel better. Number 3, The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. Which book /series /character sparked your hunger for reading? I have a few. I have 2 here. One I've talked about so much before. I'm not going to go way into it. The Magic Tree House series was a big series for me that sparked my love of not only reading, but also travel and history and just everything. This series was massive for me. As soon as I could like read, do proper reading, and I started to take books out from the library, this series was what really got me to love reading. Another one I remember that really got me into reading was The Frog Princess by Edie Baker, which was made into the Disney movie, The Princess and the Frog, which is nothing like this book, and I'm still salty about it. But this book, I remember being one of the first books. I probably read it when I was about 10 or 11. This was one of the first books that really got me into reading like older books and expanded my interest into like older writing. Number 4, Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. What's the most unusual book you've ever read? I don't think I've read that many unusual books. The only one that comes to mind is The Explorers Guild by John Bard and Kevin Costner, because it's like half graphic novel, half, I guess, regular novel, and its design is absolutely beautiful. All the pages, I don't know if you can tell, they're like old looking. So, and it's like adventure, kind of like Tintin comics, but then it's also like comedy, and there's just a lot going on in this book. So it's definitely one of the uniquest books I've read just because of the format, the choices they chose to do it like half comic, half novel. It's quite unique. Number 5, Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak. What is your favorite book featuring the natural world? And I couldn't think of any of like books I own that have like very prominent natural world stuff. So I got this book. It's Guide to Dinosaurs when I was probably about 9, and I was obsessed with dinosaurs back when I was younger, and I loved learning about them and learning about where they were found and their bones and mythology having to do with them. It just fascinating. I used to look through this book all the time to just learn about the dinosaurs. So this one is obviously centered around one aspect of the natural world. Number 6, Goodnight Moon by Margaret Wise Brown. Do you read at bedtime? Do you read to someone else at bedtime? Did anyone ever read to you at bedtime? I'll start with the last one first. My mother used to read to me, but not necessarily at bedtime. But there were some times I remember that she would come and we would read together before going to bed. But then I also had my older sister, so it's not like my mother could read to me and not to my sister. So she definitely read to me, but not always before bed. And I've never, I think, read to somebody before bed. I don't have any kids myself, and I've never been around like a lot of young kids to be able to read to them. And as for reading before bed, yes, every single night I will read before bed, even if it's like 10-15 minutes. Even like falling asleep, usually I will put on an audiobook and set it on a timer of like 15 minutes. So by the time I fall asleep, the audiobook has like paused, but I'll have a little bit of reading right before bed. So yes, I always read before bed. Number 7, Guess How Much I Love You by Sam McBratney and illustrated by Anita Jerram. Who had the biggest influence on you as a reader? My parents, I would say. My parents were massive readers. My father read a lot of sci-fi and fantasy. My mom read as well a lot of fantasy. She also got into like theology books. So growing up, I was surrounded by books. My mom still has 2 very old bookshelves that are very big and bulky, and they were filled with books, even when I was maybe 4 or 5, before I could even fully remember. And I also saw my parents reading a lot. And so it was common even on vacations. My parents would always bring a book with them, even though they may not have that much time to read it. So I grew up in a family that read. And my sister is an absolute voracious reader. My dad could go through books so quick, and my sister is just like him, where she's able to read like a book double as fast as I am. And I feel like I read a lot, but she reads a lot. So when I was younger, I had the influence of my sister, who, you know, when you're young and you have an older sibling, you tend to like idealize them. And I definitely did that with my sister. So if she read a book, I wanted to, which was an issue sometimes, because with her being 2.5 years older than me, sometimes there were books that were fine for her to read, but that weren't always child appropriate for me to read. So that was an issue, but I got my love for reading a lot of books that my sister read because I idealized her, and then I kind of found my own books that I read when I was slightly older. Number 8, The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. Which book or sets of books would you give it to an emerging reader? Or which book have you given as a gift more than once? I have not given a gift or a book more than once. Usually if I'm giving a gift of a book, I find out what series they want, what types of books that particular reader will read. So I don't technically like say, oh, this is my go-to book when I'm trying to give a gift for like a person. I try to be more specific than that. Like if I know they particularly want a book, I'll get them that book. As for books to give an emerging reader, definitely, you know, young, I would still give The Magic Tree House. And it would also depend on what age they were, what types of stories they like. So if you have an adult that's just getting into reading, I might recommend something totally different than I would like an 8-year-old that's just learning how to read. So yeah, it would depend. I can see myself recommending things like Jane Austen or Agatha Christie, or again, it would depend on what type of reader they were, or like if they were into movies, if they were into fantasy movies, I might recommend something like Lord of the Rings, something like that, because I don't know, it's hard for me to say, oh, what series would I recommend to every emerging reader? And I don't think I have like one. All right, I feel like most people I know are already tagged in this or have already done it. I'm sure there are some that haven't. If you want to do this tag, go ahead. I'm sure I've forgotten some people that like I will regret and say, oh yeah, they didn't do this. I should tag them in it, but I am oblivious. Besides, I need to get back to writing my final paper. My final paper and presentation are due tomorrow, so that's exciting. So what are some of your answers to these prompts? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I post every Saturday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!